I was going to give you a quick demo of my Consul container for Docker. If you're not familiar with Consul, it's a great sort of key value store, distributed lock service, monitoring service, and service directory. So it's a great primitive for building distributed systems. And then Docker, as a runtime for application containers. So what I've done is put the Consul agent into a Docker container so you can easily deploy Consul anywhere that you have Docker and set up a cluster. And so you can find the project on my GitHub. It's called Docker Consul. It's sort of an appliance, so it's a little opinionated and comes with some conveniences. It's called Program Consul on the Docker Hub. You can just pull it. It's very small. It's based on BusyBox, so it's only 26 megabytes to download. And the README has a great kind of introduction on trying out Consul, setting up a cluster on a single host, and then of course actually setting up a real production kind of cluster. And so we make some assumptions, like we kind of assume that you're going to run this on a private network using private IPs. In this demo, we're actually going to run this on DigitalOcean, and you can do that on private IPs there, but we're actually going to run it on a public network just for the demo. And as you can see, it's actually quite a bit involved to actually run run this container because of all the ports that Consul has and some of the other configuration that you have to do. So to make it as easy as it would be doing it outside of Docker and adding some more conveniences, we've actually I've built in this command run command, which will actually output the command to run it based on the IP that you put in, if you add a join IP, and any other Docker run options that you want to have. And so this is just kind of a convenience method, and the way you would use this is you would run that command and just wrap it in subshell. So that's what we're going to do. The first thing that we want to do here, ignore this project. We'll see it again later. So we've got 3 nodes sitting here on DigitalOcean. They're just running the Docker application image, the version 1.1.2 on Ubuntu. And then I've already got connections, SSH connections. And I've also already pre-pulled some of the Docker images just so this is a little bit quicker. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually set an environment variable, the public IP, for all of these, because we use the public IP. We have to tell Docker the IP that we want to bind to. And we're using the public IP. Normally you'd want to use private IP, but for this demo I'm doing public. And lastly, I'm actually going to take the IP of node 1 and add it as the join IP for the others in a variable, so I don't have to look that up again. So the other 2 nodes are going to join the first node after it's started up. All right, so we're ready to do it. We can just go back to the docs and see. I'll just start with this. So we're going to run this in a subshell. I'm going to run this in the foreground. So these are going to be passed to Docker run. And here I'm going to use public IP. And so if I just give it a public IP, it assumes I'm the first node. It'll start up using bootstrap expect. By default using 3, which is a common one. Another common one is 5. You can override those with environment variables. But so we'll set up this node. It's running. It's going to wait for the other to start. So I'll just copy this, and we can just run this on this other one. We're going to use public IP set on this machine, but we're going to add : another IP, join IP, and this will actually say, okay, now instead of starting up as the first node, join this other node. So we'll do that. Okay, so both of them see each other, but still no leaders, waiting for the third one. This last one, I'm going to, again, all we have to do is this, but I'm actually going to run it in the background so we can do some other stuff. Okay, but we can look at the others and see now that there's 3 nodes, we've elected the leader. It's node 1. Node 1 is the leader. And we could add more nodes. We could kill node 1. We could kill any of the nodes. If we killed node 1, it would elect the leader. That's how Consul works using Raft and all that good stuff. So you can play around with that if you want. We can just see that at this point we actually have a working cluster that you could use in production. We can actually go and use the key value store. We can just hit the public IP, the port for the API, key value, say hello world. So that means it was set. And actually the other cool thing is this container, as an appliance, it has the web UI built in, so we can actually just go check that out on any of the nodes, because it's going to have a consistent view. It doesn't matter. Sorry, we're going to put in the right IP and go to /UI to get the UI. And so this is a nice little UI showing the state of inside cluster. We can see it's managing services. It lists service console itself as a service. We can see the nodes that are involved, and then we can see the key value store, and there's our value there. So one of the other cool things is that Consul comes with a DNS server. So I can actually do DNS lookups using the convenience method will automatically look up the Docker bridge and then bind DNS on there. So it makes it kind of convenient to do DNS lookups. I can do, let's see, this is here. So it actually showed me the IP for node 1. I could get the IP for node 2. So you can look up nodes, but you can also look up services, and you saw there's a Consul service. And so here it'll actually give me the list of IPs of nodes that have the Consul service running on it. And so this is kind of interesting. The reason why I put it on the Docker bridge on 53 so you could use it conveniently like this, but I actually, there's kind of this neat trick you can do with Docker where if you set the options for the daemon to use the Docker bridge for DNS, all the containers will try and use that IP to resolve DNS, and then we fall back to a Google DNS. And then the cooler thing is, if you do this at the daemon level, you can actually include the DNS search domain. So like we looked at before, we had to put consul.service.consul to get the list of Consul services. Here, because of this, when I'm inside a container, I can actually just look up Consul. So we can see this. I'll run a little container here with Ubuntu and Bash. And I should be able to just say ping console, and it resolves the consul.service.console, and it picked, the way Consul works is it gives you a random IP from the list of services, and we're pinging one of the Consul nodes. So that's pretty much it. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. If you have any, if you run any problems, submit an issue. If you want to improve it in some way, submit a pull request.